All right, hello, sixth period. Today we're going to draw the face. So I need you to get out some white paper. Hopefully it's just plain white paper. If you have notebook paper, I guess it's going to work, but you'll see here in about 5 or 10 minutes why that's going to be kind of annoying. And then pencil, make sure you've got a good eraser. So, first thing, last week you guys drew a face for me, and very good job on those. It's kind of obvious when somebody has drawn a lot of faces in their life and when somebody hasn't. What I'm going to do today is walk you through how I set up a face, how to get the proportions right, how to use kind of a grid to just line everything up. And this way, in the future, it's not only going to be a little bit better for you, but it's also going to be way easier, way quicker to get a face in the right place. So let's get started. Sorry if you see some shadows. I'm working with what I got here. So first thing I want you to do is put a vertical line in the middle of the paper. Leave yourself some space at the top and the bottom, maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches. Draw fairly lightly. I might push a little harder on the paper just so you guys in the video can see it. But just draw to where you can erase, because some of this stuff we are going to erase. You want to make sure you're following along because you're going to send me what you do. So from this, I want you to take that line and split it up into 3 pieces. A third, a third, a third. Get it close, doesn't have to be exact. I don't have a ruler out. Third, third, third. That one's maybe a little bit too big, but that's all right. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Now what we're going to use, actually I am going to bump that up a tiny bit. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Now you're going to use first section, second section, ignore the third. I want to circle using these 2 sections, so from top to bottom. So go ahead and do that. And if you're like me, you're going to scratch all over this place with this pencil, and you'll have to just keep what you want. That's fine. I tend to make 1,000 lines and then keep 1 or 2 of them. All right. Yeah, not too bad. Not perfect, but that's fine. We're actually going to cover some of that anyway. Okay, so if you think about a skull, it's 2 pieces. You've got the round top, and then you've got the jaw hanging off of it. So now we're going to put that jaw line in. Use the outside of your circle. The circle should be a little wider, probably. Use the outsides of your circle, so boom, boom, and connect down to that bottom mark you made earlier with a little bit of a curve. And they should be a match on both sides. So if one side, like this side's getting a little bit kind of big, I might make this side a little bigger. What we're making is the jaw line. And you don't really need to know this for this paper, but it's good to know. If you're drawing a man, the jawline's going to hang out a little further out here and then come back in to make a strong jaw. If you want a face that's a little more feminine, keep it in a little closer, a little narrower. For this, it's just a generic, I don't really care, just get it in there. There we go. Now, erase the bottom of that circle. Hopefully it's kind of starting to look like the shape of a head. Then erase your third marks. Keep the line running down the middle. If you see a weird spot, you can fix it. Also, I should tell you, there's tons of people on YouTube drawing faces, and everybody's a tiny bit different, even though most of this is going to be the same. So if any point in time something I'm doing doesn't make a whole lot of sense, you can always go to YouTube and see a bunch of other people doing kind of the same thing, but maybe explaining it a little different. Okay, so there's the outline of her face. I think it's kind of okay. I would maybe fix the jawline, but not a big deal. Let's move on. So, top of the head, bottom. Make a little mark in the middle. And take that mark and go out to the side, out to the side. Real light, because you're going to erase. Mine's a little crooked. It's a little better. And then out here, where that line extends, just write the word eyes. Because that's the line our eyes are going to go on. Now, from our eye line to our chin, split that in half. Doesn't have to be exact, but just get it close. And write the word nose. Now take that bottom piece, so nose to chin, split that again in half. And write the word mouth. So, like I was saying, some of you had some really good faces last week. And if you've done a lot of faces, this might be actually what you do, so this might be review for you. If you haven't drawn a lot of faces, you're probably going to think, especially in the next minute or two when we start putting eyes in, that's a huge forehead. But don't worry, we're going to fill that, we're going to do some hair, we're going to do some stuff later. But I guarantee you, if you look in the mirror right now and you put one hand on top of your head and one hand under your chin, your eyes are going to be really close to the middle. So trust that line. That's the most important one right now. Okay, so let's put some eyes in. You are probably about 5 eyes wide. And what that means is, split this line up into fifths. I've got these two maybe a little narrow, but I can fix that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A typical face is 5 eyes wide. And the width between your eyes is typically the width of one of your eyes. Okay? All right, so what we're going to do with these little marks is I want you to just put in a generic eye shape, and that line is the middle of the eye, so go above and below. I tend to make the bottom just a curve, and then I tend to make the top kind of a straight line here, and then kind of drops over. But you guys do it how you want. This is really today just getting the proportions right. It's not making it look like a specific person. But what you might notice is you will just subconsciously kind of put some of your own features into it. Okay, 2 eyes. Like I said, if you haven't done this a lot, you're probably thinking that dude has a huge forehead. But trust me, it's fine. Okay, keep the lines you want to keep. Ditch the ones you don't want. Make sure you're following along. Okay. Now, we're going to put the circles in the eyes. We're going to start with the colored part, the iris. And it's just going to be 2 circles that are just barely cut off, top and the bottom. So then the space, the inside and the outside's the white of the eye. And you do have pupils, but we're going to wait a few minutes to put those in. So just have this for now. That's where the eyes go. Okay, so nose. This is going to be the bottom of the nose, this line. But where does it stop? How wide is it? So, if you're drawing a masculine face, or just somebody that has a little bit wider of a nose, what you do is you go from the inside of that circle you just made, the iris, go straight down, almost like it's crying. There's the outside. There's the other outside. So the nose is going to fit from here to here, bottom on that line. If the person has a very narrow nose, or more of a feminine look, then you're just going to bump those in. I should say I've actually recorded this a couple times and had stupid telemarketers mess up the recording, so hopefully I don't repeat anything. If I do, just know that's why. I don't remember what I've said and what I haven't said. I've got a couple of these things going. But one thing I want to tell you guys before we draw the bottom of this nose, you're going to have kind of a superpower by the time we get done with this. It's good and bad. You're going to be able to lay out a face. But what we're doing is we're drawing like the ideal, perfect, everything lines up just where it's supposed to be face. So like someone that's exceptionally beautiful. Unfortunately, 99.9% of the world isn't exactly like that. So what we're doing is we're showing where everything should be. Now, back to the eyes before we get to the nose. Let's say someone's eyes are a little bit close together. Then you would start where we started with fifth, 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 and you would just bump that middle fifth in to make it look more like them. Same thing with the nose. It should drop right about here, but maybe they have a huge nose and it goes out a little further. Start here and then adjust. I'm saying you're going to have kind of a superpower because you're going to start to see your face, other people's face in these proportions. And unfortunately, you will see what is right and what is wrong with faces, which include yours. So just kind of get over it a little bit, I guess. So nose, there and there. We're going to do the bottom of the nose, and really all I want for now is that outside curve on both sides. This little curve at the bottom kind of hooks back. Hopefully you can see that. The little bottom hooks back. And off of that, I'm going to make nostrils and then just kind of round this off to connect them. You can shade that in if you want. You can put some of this stuff in if you want. Don't worry about this stuff up here. People tend to make those two bold, terrible lines, the vertical lines to make a nose, and that's not really what you do. I'll show you here in a minute. You really just kind of shade the cheeks and you'll start to see more of a nose. So just get this in for now. And again, this is just a generic person. Some people have bigger noses. I would raise my hand and say I do, because I have a kind of a wide nose, so it would be out here somewhere. If the nose is narrower, you would bump it in. But for now, just go with that. Okay. So, next, mouth. Before we can get the mouth in, let's put 2 pupils in. Circle. Circle. Same size. Very good round circles. If you want to shade them in, you can. If that's kind of freaking you out, the person has no soul, shade them in. And then, what we can normally do is just like we did the outside of the nose, go inside of the pupil straight down, and there's our mouth line, and there's the width of the mouth. Again, they might have a narrower mouth, they might have a wider mouth, that's fine, but start there and then look at the actual person and decide, yeah, they've got kind of a narrow mouth, and then bump it in. I'm just going to use, I kind of got a little crazy with that line, I'm going to move that over. There. I'm just going to use that. So, some people will tell you this is the middle of the mouth. I don't think it is. I think the middle of the mouth is just above that, so what I tend to do is put the lips in, get that top one in, then I kind of erase this. And just kind of draw it how I see the person. If you're drawing a man, they tend to have a little narrower lips, little skinnier lips. The top lip, 99% of the time, is a little thinner than the bottom lip. I actually think lips are probably harder than the nose, but that might just be me. And like I said, I'm drawing this kind of dark so you guys can see it. Ideally, you would just make that inside line darker, but leave these outside lines a little bit lighter. Because if you don't, it'll look like lips just stuck on. It'll look kind of wild until you start shading. So you can just lighten up the outside, but keep that inside a little darker. So that's how you line that stuff up. Eyes in the middle. Your head should be about 5 eyes wide. Inside of the iris to inside of the iris is about the width of a nose. Just worry about the bottom of the nose. And then inside the pupil will get you a mouth. And again, everybody's a little bit different, but you're going to start to see this framework and then adjust it for the individual person. And again, I can't remember if I told you guys, but children and babies, these features are actually lower. Everything squeezes together. They've got much more head up top because their face just hasn't grown. So this would be an adult face. So now let's talk ears. And ears typically will go from your eyes to the bottom of your nose. But this is one, like I said before, where everybody's a little bit different. Ears are maybe the most different amongst people. Some people have big ears, some people have skinny ears, some people have the attached ears, maybe that's not attached, maybe they're higher up, maybe they're lower. Start with that guideline and then look at the person and change them. My ears kind of drop down like that. Then if you want, you can throw a few of those extra little ear lines in. Okay, so that is the basic layout of the face. But some of you are still freaked out by this person's enormous forehead. What you would do is figure out where the hairline is, which is going to be, up in here somewhere. Let's just put a generic one in. You can watch and then do yours after I'm done. You would just put a generic hairline in for the person. And then you decide, is the person's head shaved? Like, do they have a buzz cut? Because then, that's probably it. If they have hair, you can get rid of that top part and give them funky hair. And you start to get, hopefully, a real looking person. You can get rid of, I noticed my midline's kind of off, but that's all right. You can kind of get rid of your extra lines. And from there you would shade. Just a side note, eyebrows are just hairs. You don't need to do, some people will do this weird outline thing and then it looks very fake. My suggestion to you is just scratch and do hairs, because that's all it is. So, I'm going to swap out for one I was working on earlier. Do this, put hair in, then just start shading and try to make this look like a real person. To do the nose, all you're going to do is put a little shade, preferably just on one side. I think it sometimes looks weird if you do the same on both sides. You could do a little bit on this side, but just kind of put some shade in between your eyebrow and your eye, and then down and around to get that look like the nose is coming off the paper. Put in some ear lines, some, if you've got smile lines, shade a little bit. Take what we just did, somewhere in here, then you added a little more, I went to that, and then we're at that. Just start to add until you think you've got kind of a real looking person. It might look a little bit like you, that's fine. It might not look like you, that's fine. What I'm looking for is proportions, everything's right. Eyes in the middle, nose, mouth, jawline looks good. Everything's kind of mirrored. The ears are roughly in the right spot, even though we know everything kind of moves around a little bit. This is what I want from you guys. Next week will be our last week on the face. You're going to be drawing a real person, whether it's you or someone else, just like you did last week, but using this stuff. So last week's pre-test, this week, give me a generic looking face. It might look like you, somebody else, don't care. But get everything right. Shade it, send it to me. Next week, we're going to take those proportions and we're going to customize it so that it looks like the person you're looking at. Okay, so I am pretty much done for today. Send me an email if this is confusing you. If you feel like watching someone else on YouTube do this, that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to know. Maybe this guy's got a little bit of a 5 o'clock shadow. Reach out to me if you have any questions. But I think that's it for me. All right. See you guys.